Check 1 2. Check. Check 1 2. Check ทดสอบ
ช่วยเรียกทุกคนเข้ามาได้ไหมเอาขนมเข้ามากินก็ได้ใช่เดี๋ยวเราจะเริ่มกันแล้วนะคะ ขอเชิญทุกคนเข้าห้องประชุมหน่อย
ครับผมเดี๋ยวผมเช็คเปิดแบตเตอรี่
For the plenary
พี่ดาร่าเขามีอะไรกันเลย
You have slide? Wow, okay. Just three. เอาก๊อปปี้แล้วก็แทรกใส่เข้าไปในสไลด์ใหญ่มาสเตอร์ก็ได้นะตัวที่สองตัวที่ยังไม่ใช่
รอเขาไปให้หน่อยรอให้เดี๋ยวบอกให้โอเคนะ
ได้
If you still like to have some tea or coffee or snacks, please feel free to bring inside, okay? Sorry for the short break time.
บไปอีกครับสีเหลืองเลยก็ได้ครับถอยลงอีกหน่อยก็ได้ครับโอเคครับ
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? I understand it could be a little bit exhausting after we attended entire morning and also I mean, quite very interesting sessions you have just finished. And here have some announcement. Our team have prepared the evaluation form, and our team will share you soon with a QR code. So today, before you leave this forum, please kindly respond the evaluation form. Your feedback will be most valuable for us to improve our organizing of the event for the next time. And the second announcement is about we found one bag. We found a bag in the B2 session, in the B2 session room. Please, you can get your bag back from the registration counter, please. Anyone you forgot your handbag, please kindly proceed to the registration counter. So, welcome back again to the Mekong Forum 2022. And after you have attended the morning opening session as well as another 2 breakout sessions, I hope you feel the forum this year is really interesting and you have been inspired by the speakers. Now it's time to proceed the last session of today's event to share the key discussions under 3 thematic areas. Session A, inclusive and resilient society. B, seamless connectivity. And C, session GMS priority sectors. Please join me to welcome 5 panelists to be on the stage. Dr. Wang Sa, Loha Siliwong, Professor, Faculty of Public Health, Kongan University. Dr. Wang Sai, Loha Siliwong, and Dr. Julian Clark, Specialist of Trade and Investment Facilitation, Department of Mekong Institute. Let's give him a big applause. Big hands applause. Please. And the next panelist, Ms. Maria Teresa Metiada, Director of Agriculture Development and Commercialization Department of Mekong Institute. Ms. Maria, please be on the stage. Let's welcome her. Next panelist, Dr. Rico Angkok, Dean of the School of Environmental Science and Management at the University of Philippines, Los Banos, and the head of the Ecosystem Services and Environmental Policy Research Laboratory of SESAM. Dr. Rico Ancock, please kindly be on the stage. And the last but not least panelist, Mr. Sanga Satanung, Program Manager of Trade and Investment Facilitation Department of Mekong Institute. Please kindly be on the stage. We have 2 to 5 panelists, but now only Dr. Julian is here. Maybe. Okay, so the other panelists are coming. So please be patient on the stage. Or else if you want to share something about your discussion, the sessions you have attended, probably I think we can give the floor to Dr. Julian. Maybe he can start to share something before the other panelists join us. Or, you will be the moderator. Yes. Oh, and so may I also invite Mr. Sulian Vichlekan, the Executive Director of Mekong Institute, also join Dr. Julian on the stage to as the moderator of the last session. Yes, let's give him a big hands, please. So
please sit down, Julian. All right, welcome back to the plenary session, and thank you, Howard, for the introduction. I think some of the panel members still trying to digest. Even I myself attending the creative economy still find it difficult because I need to digest while speaking. So I hope you bear with us. Before inviting the representative of the breakout session to share share their reflection of the discussion and particularly the recommendation of what we could propose to the GMS or Mekong countries as the topic where we all can work together over the next 1 to 2 years. I would like just to recall the discussion we have had since the morning. COVID-19 disrupt, create impacts. We all know that. Policy is there. Action plan already developed. The issue is about the actual implementation. The issue is about whether recovery has been taken place in the speed, in the manner in which our leader, development partner has been expecting. From the morning session, it has been clear that much progress has been made, but there's still much remain to be done. And we cannot wait that we can go at the speed, the current speed. We need to find ways to do it better in a more accelerated manner and also prepare to transition towards resilient economy and resilient society. That has been the discussion we have had. The issues in this plenary is to see from lenses of each of the breakout session of what are possible entry point where COVID recovery and long-term resilient development could be implemented. I hope that the panel will share with us the insight, discussion, and most importantly, the recommendation of what could be taken over the next 1 to 2 years so that we can help address implementation issues, looking in terms of cross-sectoral synergies and linkages, so that this could be something that we all will focus and work together in the near future. So with that introduction, I also would like to give a heads up to the audience that besides the panel members, we also hope and expect that the participants, you could also bring up ideas after you have heard the discussion and whether or not something that could also be of common interest to other stakeholders in the Mekong sub-region or GMS. Is it clear? Fine that we will do this way? Good. Who would like to take first the floor? Normally we start by giving opportunity to the ladies, but I think it's worthwhile that Julian, you start first, okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Suryan. So I attended two very interesting sessions, quite complex ones. I moderated in the morning the logistics session, in which we talked about the movement of goods across borders. And then in the afternoon session, we talked about digitization. And the linkage is that digitization is all about trade and services across borders. So there were clear linkages between the two. And COVID has had different impacts in both sectors. I think you know something about logistics and the importance of the Greater Mekong subregion to logistics. This area is a crucial link in what we call Factory Asia. This is the process by which companies have divided their manufacturing procedures between countries. So what starts as a microchip in Kuala Lumpur can finish up in Vietnam as a mobile telephone. And in between, the manufacturing centers are split between countries depending on their comparative advantage. And this discussion on logistics led us into the importance of special economic zones, which are areas in which within a confined geographic area, countries can provide efficiencies that they're not able to provide overall. So this means that special economic zones are able to attract investment and then grow opportunities within each country. And that includes Laos, that includes Cambodia, that includes Vietnam, and it includes Thailand, to a certain extent also Myanmar. So these special economic zones, by attracting investment, are able to provide employment opportunities for people. They're able to provide opportunities for small businesses in those countries to develop efficiencies, to learn new technologies, and perhaps in time become exporters. This is part of linkage into what we call global value chains. These value chains are also supply chains, these manufacturing chains that stretch across the world. And we are very lucky in the Greater Mekong subregion to be at ground zero in this process. Now, what happened during COVID-19 was that all the movement of goods ground to a halt. But in a sense, we're trying to grow back better. So as movement of goods now comes back to the previous level, we're looking at how to make this technology more sustainable. How do we reduce emissions? How do we make it a more green agenda? So we heard from DHL about how they are making their truck fleet fully electric over time. It's a complex process, but we went through the emission standards and so on. And DHL, I think, as the largest private sector logistics company in the world, is putting an enormous effort into making their fleet sustainable. So we heard from an SEZ specialist, we heard from DHL, and finally we worked with an expert here in Thailand, talking to us about new technologies in the food chain that are able, in a more efficient and more environmentally sustainable way, to preserve goods and food, which sounds mundane, but in fact is extremely important. For example, if farmers can preserve their food and be able to ship shrimp, prawns, vegetables from here to the US with proper storage and freezing techniques, it means they're able to make about 20% more on their crop. 20% more out of the agricultural sector, which is contributing about 30% of the entire economy of most of our countries, means a substantial gain, not only for farmers, but for society as a whole. So we heard a little bit about on the ground how new techniques are saving money, and making the region wealthier. And these new techniques have formed out of COVID-19. Then in the afternoon, we had a session on digitization. I don't think I need to tell you much about how the digital revolution is changing all our lives. And I think the first obvious point was that COVID-19 changed the way we do business. Who was using Zoom very much before we started all working from home? Zoom has taken off, online shopping has taken off. E-services such as Grab are completely replacing the way we used to live and the way we used to carry out our transactions. Now, the way that digitization has taken over our lives, particularly post-COVID, is by embedding themselves in typical activities that we've always done, so that it becomes almost instinctive in a way to use technology to improve our lives. Now, One thing from the business angle that we notice is digitization provides entry into the market for very small businesses. People who would never have been able to trade or to find a new market before are able, through Amazon, through eBay, through Alibaba, to suddenly find a much broader market for their services, no matter their size. And there are clear gender aspects to this. For example, in Cambodia, most of the small and medium enterprises are owned by women. So to the extent that digitization allows entry into the market and perhaps even allows for that big step into becoming an exporter, then you see that there are real welfare benefits even for marginalized parts of the population. And of course, this digitization revolution has come about as part and parcel of the COVID pandemic. So on both sides, both in the trade of goods and in the trade of services, we see that there's been a huge growth, one that we perhaps haven't noticed yet, in the way we do business, in the way we move goods, and in the way we're building back better. And I think the good news that came out of both sessions was that there are enormous benefits in the COVID-19 revolution, in a sense, new efficiencies, greener technologies, more knowledge about ourselves, more opportunities for business, more wealth, and more welfare for all of us. So those were the two sessions. It was difficult to draw linkages between them, but I think there was an overall theme that came together nicely. Thank you, Mr. Suryan.
Thank you, Julian, for sharing the reflection of the two sessions. Perhaps by following your summary, I would try just to pick up perhaps what I read between the lines. I think one of the suggestions you have just made from the discussion was using special economic zones as the entry point, or where some sort of a demonstration or pilot that can start to drive. And this is also help to accelerate spillover effect. And this can be replicating to other areas. I think the same concept could also be considered if we use any other entry points, such as selected GMS city or economic corridors, so that we can start from where it could really showcase how things are done, and then replicate success and scale it up, so that we can ensure that the best practices and some sort of broadening the experience could be introduced into the region. That's what I collected. The other point you were talking about applying technology, digital tool and platform as a new, has opened up new opportunity to access to market, and so on and so forth. I also find that one of the issues we always discuss about adopting technology is not about the technology itself, but how technology will be adopted. I think this topic is also echoed in other session. Digitalization, technology adoptions is not only confined to logistic, cross-border trade in goods, service, and digitalization. We need also not to look into technology introduction, but looking into demonstrating co-benefit, whether how farmers could gain additional income, and the technology can really help reducing costs, and whether or not reducing low emission, reducing emission can also have a better livelihood or income. That sort of co-benefit will really ensure that technology is not there, but also help to facilitate adoption. Thank you. I just would like just to add, and since it's linked to also the topic I discussed in my session.
Thank you.
Let us go to the session A on inclusive, resilient society. So we subdivided into public health emergency and One Health. So we have here Dr. Wong Sa. If you could share with us what transpired during the discussion and what could be the recommendation that your group has taken up, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. So actually we have 4 speakers, and we cover the topic why One Health is related to our strengthening health and society resilience. Because actually when we got hit by the COVID-19, it's not new. Actually, we got like zoonosis disease before H5N1, H1N1, and other, but it's not really powerful enough to trigger us how important of like human health, animal, and also ecosystem. That's why if you we look at like whether we were ready to really prepare for the pandemic or any outbreak before, we got the really data from UN indicator for preparedness, that we use human development index, like health system index, and also connectivity that related to how we will connect to other with telephone and something. And we found that there are really inequity in like among Greater Mekong sub-region country and also among ASEAN. Like most of the country in our sub-regions are in the average or really poor in the all three, except for connectivity, that is quite okay, except one country that rather low. And Thailand is in the good for human development index, and also mostly really average or rather good for the health system, except for the proportion of physician per population ratio that Thailand is low. So, and then, but the efficient in terms of really budgeting, like it means health expenditure is quite good in Thailand, and some country like Singapore is good. But anyhow, this one is show something that how could we improve it and why? It means that before the crisis, before the pandemic, we are not really good enough to prepare in terms of technologies. But right after the pandemic, a lot of like technology have been used, like AI, nanotechnology, gene editing, robot, drone, and other very quickly because it's highly demand, no matter what, right? So this thing is very important. And right, we found that in Laos PDR, they try to really improve what we call universal health coverage to make sure that people could access to healthcare when they need it, and it's not normal healthcare, it's quality healthcare. And then during the COVID-19, it's a time for them to really, even the budget is decreased, but they could improve quality to make sure that it means people who could like it means people in the rural area or vulnerable group could reach this one. And also the digital health is very important. Most of the people use application, right? And also sector, and also telehealth is something that is kind of pain point, whether it's good efficiently to increase the efficiency or it widen the gap between rich and poor, because for the big hospital, they use telehealth to provide the kind of HY to the remote community hospital. But for the private sector, they use it for the mild or moderate case in the kind of nursing home or something, that luxury one. So that's how. But why we talk about like One Health? Because normally we think about human health, we never care about animal that could be our vectors, right, or reservoir, and also the balance of ecosystem. And then when we do the resilience, right, we do not really improve only health, but we do economic. And how could we make sure that it's sustained, it's not create other problems? So this one is BCG model, maybe really good, the biocircular and green economy. This is really important to start up. And then but sure, in order to do it, we need very systematic approach, and also like intersectoral collaboration in terms of capacity buildings, research, and also kind of innovation. And also like how could we start up with public-private partnerships and also multilateral collaboration in terms of, if we would like to do capacity building, who's gonna invest? And who gonna kind of really focus on the technologies and know-how, and this is very important. So this is what we discussed, right? So what the recommendation, we have intersectoral collaboration within the sub-regional and also within the regions is very important. And also like resource sharings and also informations really sharing for surveillance and also detection, laboratory improvement, and many other technology is very important. How could, and the other thing is, how could we bring the what we call the KMS, COVID-19 response, just hold on, and recover plan, and also the regional one into practice, right? How could like human health, like public health medicine, work with the veterinary medicine for animal and other that do ecosystem, that we could have some project that could be implemented and scale up, or also lesson learned from that one to get started. So I think some of these have been really discussed, right? And also some question about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wongsa. My afternoon brain is finding difficult to really digest all the condensed, the summary and reflection. But what I would like to collect is that under your session has brought up three important broad message. Yeah. First is about COVID-19 is not the first pandemic that we experience. The past number of years we have experienced H5N1, avian flu, SARS, and so on and so forth. It should be time that we can really make use of the experience and re-enhance better preparedness so that we can also be better prepared next time. And I think the COVID-19 experience also showed that we haven't used so much of existing regional framework and platform so that we can work together, support together in terms of confine the spread of disease and take a joint actions. So this could be something we can do better, you know. Second point you have brought up is very interesting. COVID-19 also offer us an opportunity to accelerate the adoption of technology, digital tool and platform. At one point, I think the spread of the application was even faster than COVID strain at some point. So that shows that if we are serious and we really want to adopt technology, I think we can do that. And we can go much beyond pandemic response to really look into how we can promote telemedicine, telehealth. And this is not only to promote during in time of disaster or pandemic, but in terms of normal situation where we can promote greater access to healthcare. Your third point, I think, which is very important, eventually the term public health does not suggest only human health. There is interdependency between human health, animal health, environmental health, and how this so-called broad public health could be strengthened to provide a foundation for a more robust and resilient economy. Because we have learned from COVID-19 that pandemic could disrupt the whole thing. If a future economic cooperation integration lack of a very strong public foundation, such as public health that integrate human health, animal health, and environmental health, we may experience another round of disruption. This could be an opportunity that we reactivate this One Health approach. So that taking this topic together, we can lay down foundation towards our wellness sector and hospitality in the years to come, so that Greater Mekong Sub-region or Mekong Sub-region could have also a healthy kind of region, you know, with all the service. Thank you very much, Dr. Wongsa. Wow. I hope you bear with me. I try just to be as concise, but of course, so difficult. That is a small session I participated since we don't have my stand-in, so I have to do summary myself. It was creative economy. Under the inclusive and resilient society, besides the public health awareness sector as what has been presented by Dr. Wongsa, we also recognize the possible contribution of creative economy. And this is not a completely new thing. It has been already introduced over the past 10 years. But the session discussed that there's been still an issue centered around what is the definition, what is included and not included. And we have learned that due to the nature of creativity, because of this then it's so difficult to come up with an internationally defined concept. Therefore, suggestion was that because of creativity, we can look into common element and looking into how it can contribute to better livelihoods, employment, and community well-being. Then we discussed what could be a pursuit of policy and strategy shared by UNCTAD, by ASEAN, and also Thailand as a showcase. And we have identified a number of points, including focusing on a more prominent element of creative economy, such as design. And we can develop a project where we could provide a platform where the design component of creative economy could be discussed and shared across Mekong sub-region or GMS. This way, the creativity and hybrid cross-fertilized idea could be exchanged. And then in terms of experience in promoting creative economy could also be shared. With this, we hope that we can maximize the untapped potential of creative economy as an accelerating factor to support COVID recovery and build long-term resilient economy in the region. So that's a brief summary from what I can collect. Sorry for my small brain, I cannot really remember so much in detail. Now, shall we proceed to the priority sector? Shall we start from agriculture first? Yeah, please.
Of course, when we think about GMS, we can never separate it with the agriculture sector, among other important sectors. And then in our session, we actually asked what is the impact of COVID. And in our first slide, if that's going to be shown very quickly, the session actually allowed us to then look into the structure or the conditions of the agri sector even prior to the COVID. So in the pre-COVID situation, we have noted the importance of systemic and structural limitations. And then therefore, these are good contexts that we have to contend with to better appreciate the impact of COVID and to further drumbeat the rationale, the importance of doing systemic response also for COVID. So currently, pre-COVID, there were poverty, food insecurity, environmental damage, biodiversity loss, and climate change. The list could actually be very, very long, on top of climate-induced disasters, as well as with the importance of our limitations related to infrastructure. This one could be very, very long, on top of technical knowledge for value addition, which therefore explains why we have perennial concerns related to food security. And then also on the social aspects, as has been mentioned earlier, are the limited social safety nets. Now, you can then match that with the next slide, painting the picture related to what are the impacts of COVID-19, particularly in the agricultural sector in GMS. First and foremost, you can see in there, you can never separate agriculture with food security. And the area related to food production remains a very important concern, as well as the need to improve nutritional status for the population. In GMS, we still have to recognize the importance of smallholders. They constitute a big chunk of our farmers, so they are main players. So their concern is a major area of concern for us. And then also, on top of COVID per se, you have climate change, you have conflicts also. So we call this one as the 3 Cs. And then related to COVID is the decreasing rate of employment, which has been exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic. And then also major areas related to uncertainties such as weather and climate-induced disaster. Now, so far in terms of the literature, we have noted specific impacts of COVID: decrease in GDP, increase in poverty. Food loss was noted to have worsened due to movement restrictions. It worsens poverty. It contributed to food insecurity. And therefore, we have to look into how we can scale back SDG achievements in relation to this. Now, moving forward, we ask the question, what exactly is an inclusive climate and economic resilient agri-sector in the region. We have noted some lessons in relation to this, and perhaps this is an important thing to emphasize here. First, we need to join the call for what we call as the innovations for transformational change. Very easy for me to say here, but this one would encompass policy, social, technology, institutional, and conceptual change, or combinations of this, or specific combinations of interventions in each of these aspects would be crucial for GMS. And then also, for us to build back better a combination of a value chain approach or perspective, as well as with the nexus approach, depending on what is needed on a particular context. And then also the need to mainstream agricultural employment, particularly among the youths. And then policy and interventions must respond to small farmers' needs. This is really important to emphasize. And then again, we join also the call for the need for scaling up partnerships, particularly with local government units. And then also, how can we then scale up cross-border sharing and exchange of timely and useful information among the key stakeholders? And then the kind of capacity building or maybe an innovation on this respect also would be very necessary. Now, to cap this up, sharing, in the last slide, we have noted our thoughts, what can MI do? Now, we've identified focus areas related to MI. One is the sustainable food system. Perhaps very important here is a realization related to small farmer responsive policies for resilient and climate smart agriculture. That has to be nutritious, affordable, and safer food. Value chain development is another area being done by MI. But for us in this particular session, we wanted to have more capacity development on value addition, preservation, and climate resilient crop varieties, as well as with seeds, among other inputs to production. Also figured very, very clearly in our conversation is on post-harvest management. We believe it's a major issue in GMS, the food loss reduction concerns. Again, this is where the value chain and the nexus approach would be very applicable. And then the importance of climate smart agriculture, perhaps more on early warning system and information, more investment on climate resilient crop varieties, as well as with seeds. And then lastly, food safety and market access, the strengthening of the capacity for compliance with food safety standards. Well, this one would include GAP and perhaps organic agriculture, among others. So this has been a very, very productive session, very well attended. And thank you, everyone, for your active participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will find it difficult to summarize, but while following the discussion and recommendation, perhaps two things pop up in my mind. One is that you pointed out that in fact it's not the COVID that create difficulty challenges to agriculture. The sector itself has been facing also issue challenges because of the sector alone. On one hand, it deals with a vast number of people, community, provide food security, and things like that. But at the same time, there are some sort of limitation and challenges. COVID-19 only add complication, combined with other extreme situations such as climate change and so on and so forth, make things too complicated. I think perhaps what best summarize the view of the group is that we need to look into agriculture and food sector in a more food system approach. We cannot touch one without looking into the holistic. But of course, we need to be able to translate it into a more implementable and scalable activities. That's one point I would like to highlight. Second point is that throughout your presentation, I could easily connect the interlinkages of agriculture as a priority sector of Mekong or GMS with other topics. You were saying about we need to look into value chain, which also deal with cross-border value chain, trade. We need to look into food safety, health, and this case also related to One Health. We need to look into the application of digital tool platform, e-commerce that also link. And I believe that the wellness and hospitality sector, tourism also demand food in of food to feed our tourists, and at the same time it become also an emerging trend of some sort of gastronomy, tourism, creative economy. So this also allow us to see how the interconnection of property sector and other topic that we have been discussed could be enhanced, so that we are not adopting sectoral approach, but more on holistic societal or GMS or Mekong sub-region wide approach. Thank you so much for the input. Last but not the least, let us hear the final group on tourism. If you could also connect the topic that has been earlier discussed and how tourism could contribute to more accelerated recovery from COVID-19 and also build maybe a more resilient future for GMS. Please, Khun Sanga.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we come to the last recap or reflection on delivering sustainable growth in the tourism sector is one part of the GMS priority sector. So this session that we start with the general discussion and also provide what is the sustainable is, and also come up with the conclusion and recommendation and suggestion. Next, please. To understand that for sustainable growth in the tourism sector, it would be good to come and share one of the baseline information that's studied by World Trade Organization before COVID-19. So from 2009 to 2019, the report revealed that the annual growth of the international tourists that had been about 4%. The tourists contribute to 10% of the global GDP in 2019. And again, the report also revealed that the ASEAN will attract 123 million international tourists in 2020, with expected to grow about 152 million by 2025 and 187 million by 2030. That before 2019, before COVID recovery, the COVID pandemics. But during the COVID time, 2019 until this year, 2022, about 80% visitor drop in 2020 and loss of 1 trillion USD and 100 million tourism related job that losses. Related jobs to tourism is average about 11 jobs, including agriculture, logistics, and other sector as well. By the wording with the tourism, any word that ends with sum is huge and also cover everything that the discussion from panelist discussion that come to my mind and would like to share with you. To this part of the tourism is cover three parts: social, economic, and environment. How to make the social, economic, and environment sustainable as part of tourism? We need to focus on the stakeholder we involve, as I mentioned earlier, like the logistics, health sector, and agricultural sector, and other business as well. Come up with the short here. We have to be, for the social and economic, be accountable, then you have to keep in mind. Social environment have to provide capacity for the stakeholder. Environment with economic have to take some action to make it happen. Next, please. With this discussion, through discussion, we have the expert in the field of the tourism sector from Destination Mekong and also from Korea University to come and share on the tourism in the post-pandemic attraction dimension to attract foreign visitor, tourism policy and innovation. Apart from 4 experts, we also have the expert from Thailand, from TCEP organization. Next, please. Back, please. For the sustainable tourism, that the discussion report that is not just only the collective, is the collective journey. So in terms of the sustainable, that have to have some kind of the framework, have to do the business model, have to think about the lifestyle, and also the people we involve, especially the local community in the particular destination of the tourism site. From that, it's necessary to have the marketing and branding for the specific location. In terms of the making destination that have to be accessible, attractive, irresistible, and also building the trust with the excitement and engagement of the stakeholder that I mentioned earlier. Throughout this one, we can extending the destination lifestyle with the sample of the my meeting and intensive convention, conference and also exhibition as a sample of the Thailand strategy for the MY program that they set from 2018 to 2037 that cover the area in terms of the campaign for the tourists and also how to work with the local community. And another issue that very important, not just only in Thailand that focus and also would like to share with the other country in the GMS as well, that is CBG, economy, technology and innovation, health sector. And we would like to emphasize how to promote the tourism, not just only on physical and also through the technology innovation, through the soft power in terms of soft power for food, soft power for theater, soft power for fighting that means a kind of the activity, the sport, soft power for fashion, that the key point that other country and also can apply. Next, please. Through the tourism, and now today we know about the technology. The technology from the discussion mentioned that it's not just only the solution to assist and support, it's also is an enabler to provide and to help the people in the local community that can connect to each other and also support the framework. And lastly, to help to build inclusivity is not a basic need, but also is a help to inclusive for the people involvement. And how is the opportunity for the technology that we can see from the mobile application, we can see the capacity building program, we can see from innovation for sustainable tourism as a target and the goal of the Mekong Tourism Organization in 2023. And lastly, that the platform to certify micro business as well. And these need to have the collaboration, we have to have partnership, we have to get the support from microfinance, MSME, we need to get help from the government and also publish the information worldwide. This would be a good opportunity to access and disseminate information about tourism in specific destination. Next, please. And lastly, to have the tourism sustain, that again, we will focus on the social, focus on the environment and focus on the economic to the cultural. This one need to think about the fair tourism, responsible tourism, accessible tourism, regenerative tourism, poor tourism, to share prosperity and social inclusiveness. Environment and also need to be preserved for effective resource management, promotion, protection of a cultural value and heritage is also important for the people community who live nearby there. So global peace and mutual understanding that need to be discussed and further shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Khun Sanga. Well, I think we cannot really collect a lot of input from the audience. I was advised by the organizer that at least we should allocate some time for the participant to really at least share your thought and collect. Although the exercise might be very short, but if you could bear with us for extra time, about 10 minutes or so, I would like to request Sarah just to take on a process of trying to engage more input from the audience. We have a small exercise so that your thought and idea will not be kept with you, but shared to us. But in the interest of time, Sarah will guide us through what are the process of collecting your inputs. Sarah, over to you.
Hi, it's me again. So in the last session, after hearing the report back from each of the session, we would like now to reflect, okay, and then think forward. Okay, I think you have heard, the input from each session, and then also maybe you come up with, the cross linkages, the ideas, actually all these topics are interlinked as well. What is next is that we would like to ask you, okay, with the group that you're sitting now, to discuss, okay, among the groups, what are the agendas for action? What is the call for action in the post-COVID-19 pandemic future? What should it look like? Can you go to the next slide, please? And then, okay, you will see a card and then marker on your table. I would like, okay, after you brainstorm and discuss, you come up with one agenda for action. So at the end, each group will have one agenda for action. I understand that you come from, different background or work experience and everything, but, discuss within the group, okay, and then come up with one joint call for agenda for action. And then, later on, we'll have a diversified agendas for action. Would you like to add anything?
How much time they have before coming up? Noting that the time is already running out. Sarah?
We have 5 minutes to discuss.
Okay.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, so for online participants, we do not have the time to break you into groups, but you can reflect upon the discussion and then type, okay, in the chat box, the one agenda for action that you wish to see it happen, okay, that you think it's pressing. It should take place, in the post-COVID, or perhaps it has not been heeded. It has received too little attention, and perhaps you want to push it on the table. Is this clear? Feel free to raise your hand and then I'll try my best to clarify. How about from this on the stage as well? You should come up with one.
They already provided from
Joking.
from the discussion.
All right. Okay. So the 5 minutes start now. Yeah.
Sorry, I will not go to the final round anymore, but I'm trying to summarize so that we will not stay over time too much. Yeah. All right. เดี๋ยวดูแล้วว่าเราจะเดินไปแบบในคล้องเราจะเรียกให้เขาพูดก่อนว่าเสร็จแล้วที่จะรับแล้วก็ปิดเลยWe remain. Well, we cannot do that ourselves. That's why we like you and many colleagues are coming in. Thank you. I think there's a lot of ideas. the issues is how we can put together and package it that can attract donor development partner, because they just do not want just idea. You know?
So each table, one card, yeah, at the end. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. After. เวลาครบ5 นาที Okay, this group start writing already. Very good, very good. If you're done writing, just raise your hand, yeah? And then we'll let you go home. Joking. Otherwise, we'll not let you leave the room. Okay, can I have one representative to read what you wrote?
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. We are from Cambodia, and the agenda for action after post-COVID. We are looking forward to learn more about sustainable growth on agriculture, including digital acceleration. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so sustainable growth on agriculture, including digital acceleration. Okay, so cross linkages and then, yeah, sustainable development. Who would like to share next and is done writing? Yes, please say your name and where you come from, yeah?
First, I want to say good afternoon, everyone who attended here. My name is Nijansi. I'm come from Cambodia. Okay, my idea after COVID pandemic, what we plan to do about agriculture, like after post harvest. We plan to briefing them to understand more about the plant technique and power technology. That's all about me, about mine. Thank you.
So what I heard is post-harvest, okay, agriculture, plant techniques to reduce loss, correct? Okay, I think Khun Tess should be very happy to hear a lot of agendas for action. Perhaps one more, last one. Last one, perhaps somewhere else besides Cambodia. Here.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dwight. I'm from the Australian Embassy, but I'm also with Ben from ASEAN Foundation. I think one of the key themes that we were discussing was enhancing existing regional mechanisms to demonstrate the value of collaboration. And I think Mekong Institute is well positioned to be a platform for knowledge sharing, such as the Mekong Forum, and also a platform for capacity building for the region. So yeah, I think there's really a need, and we're keen to look into how we can support existing regional mechanisms for regional cooperation and collaboration.
Thank you, thank you. And I think we have one from online. We'll visualize here. So thank you, Dwight, for highlighting the importance of knowledge management and knowledge sharing. And so I think that's also the essence of Mekong Forum here today, okay? So from online, providing training on digital literacy in MSMEs, such as smallholder farmers and the like, mainly in rural areas and needy societies through last mile approach. Actually, the word last mile approach is very new to me. Perhaps can someone also help clarify? Maybe it's also new to the audience. So providing training. So the keyword is digital literacy, okay? And then small and medium SMEs, right? So I think it's also highlights the importance of digitalization, yeah? And then also the small farmers, okay, in the priority sectors of the GMS. All right, so I think we get quite a good call for actions, yeah? And then we will collect all the cards. If somebody can collect all the cards for me, and then we'll pin, okay, on this board. And then we will also collect the inputs from online and then document it. And then we really hope, you know, that all this call for action actually being implemented, yeah, or picked up by your national governments or even in your organization in one way or another. Okay, so now I play back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for a small exercise. So please give a big hand to Sarah for this, exercise, so that we can connect with each and every participant, your thought, idea. And I would like to encourage that if you still need a few more minutes, do so. We seriously want to collect this idea, because this idea will be the basis where we can package a more integrated concept or approach that we can introduce to the region, present back to the policymaker and development partners of what we could collectively do together. All right, it's been a long day. I would like just touch upon some of the key message that's been presented since the morning without trying to summarize the whole thing. Perhaps I would like to start by going back to where the original idea about Mekong Forum 2022 was conceived. Greater Mekong sub-region or Mekong sub-region has been already growing very quickly because of its strategic location, because of interest of development partners, private sector, investor, and so on and so forth. Potential is there. It can connect the rest of ASEAN with Asia and the rest of the world. And we surely see a quicker development in the recent year. COVID-19 came, and that remind all of us that disruption can happen. And therefore, we should not just only respond and look into recovery only, but finding way to quickly accelerate recovery, learn from it, and transition to resilient economy so that we will be more prepared and we can help minimizing impact for possible extreme shock in the future so that we can recover, rebound, and become more resilient. So that was the term has been discussed in the morning. The second point that I think it has been brought up was that if you look into high-level policy statement, action plan, Mr. Ramesh from ADB has already outlined one example of GMS Economic Cooperation Program. If you look into other Mekong Plus Cooperation Framework, you see element where the leaders already highlight the need to support accelerated recovery. So policy action plan are there. The issues that we are now looking at is how well such policy and action plan are translated into implementation. What are implementation issue and challenges, and how we can really address this issue so that recovery could be accelerated, rebound could take lesser time, and we can transition to future resilience. So that's the issue. With that, point number 3, Mekong Institute together with partner looking into a broad spectrum of topic. And of course, the 3 sub-themes that has been introduced to you, be it inclusive, resilient society, seamless connectivity, and property sector, are only an possible entry point. And what could be common element that we can take so as we can take up some of the very focused, concrete initiative that we can showcase how existing policy and action plan could be translated into implementation. We have heard from the panel member this afternoon of what could be element, what could be entry point. We will not simply take each of every point as a standalone project or activity, but take it as a common element that shape how best we can reach out to Mekong countries, to community, so that we can combine the effect of economic development and recovery. So I will not be able to touch upon any of the detail because we still need to digest and collect more thought from the session. My 4th point, I would like just to perhaps take maybe 1 or 2 cross-cutting point from the sub-theme. I think to me, when I hear the report back session, one clear important message that I got is that regardless of what we would like to do in the future, we should not undermine that a strong, resilient economy need to lie on a very healthy society, community of GMS or Mekong sub-region. Public health is something we should not take it for granted, and it's not the work only for the Ministry of Health. It is a societal issue and concern, and we need to find a way to work together. So resilient economy, resilient future should have a strong foundation of public health, cooperation, and initiative. So that's what I got. Second point, learning from property sector. If you combine the stakeholder of agriculture and tourism, this perhaps could easily represent 80% of people involved, engage every corner of community of GMS or Mekong sub-region. The issue is how we can support them, not only in terms of addressing the COVID-19, but also address the issue and challenges faced by the 2 sectors. Because if we can help these 2 sectors, the majority of community people will be better off, and they themselves could co-create, co-shape how the sub-region will be further developed. Last point is about in what manner we can support the 2 sectors and other sectors involved is through seamless connectivity. This is how we can better work together through comparative advantage of individual Mekong countries or GMS. because each of the country bring your expertise, your resources, your comparative advantage through seamless connectivity, logistic, cross-border trade, and digitalization. This will be an entry point where we can support the two priority sector and other sector so that we can grow together and we can prosper together. Last point, we cannot do this by leaving it to government, neither to the private sector. We also need to tap on academic sector, civil society, community. So partnership is the keywords. And it's not only the partnership among stakeholders. We need to recognize and see the value of existing regional cooperation and how we can really help enhance capacity of translating ideas, policy into implementation. And that's what also the point raised by Dwight, which I think this is also something that we should also bring in to see how ideas that has been properly packaged could be driven for future implementation through partnership, through existing regional cooperation framework. Having said that, Mekong Institute has been privileged to be able to work with all of you, development partner, governments, representative from private sector, academic institutions. Much remains to be done. It's only with your active engagement, help each other to really formulate good ideas, help each other to translate this into actual implementation so that we can address the implementation issues, help to refine policy so that we all can benefit from such policy and support from the development partner. Mekong Institute have in place two example of the flagship program. One is towards economic resilience in the GMS and GMS Knowledge Network, which we will try to use this initiative that we have as an mechanism of socializing your suggestion and recommendation. And hopefully we can come back to you with possible support that we can bring your idea into implementation. So with that, I would like to invite every one of you for rounds of applause. First to the co-host of this event, which is Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau, TCEP. Please give a big hand to TCEP. Second, to our partners, to the Khon Kaen Chamber of Commerce. So please. To Thailand Creative Economy Agency, who also are an important partner, please. And to resource person, speaker since the morning, afternoon, and all ladies and gentlemen sitting in this stage. Okay, I should not forget the last batch of the stakeholder, which is every single one of you who spare your precious time being with us, hearing new ideas, sharing your thought, and hopefully be part of translating the idea into implementation. Every one of you, please. So with that, let me hand over my role. I hope this is not too bad for the whole day work. To Howard, the MC of the day. I once again thank you for your cooperation and support, which really is a lot of my work throughout the day. Thank you.
Thank you for all the panelists to give us very constructive recommendations and also summary for all of the participants also can hear what you have discussed in the separate sessions. And also, of course, thanks to Mr. Sulian for your wrap up of the entire forum today. I hope all of the participants here and also online could take the recommendations and the key messages from today's forum home, and you could take some actions with your own business, your own organization, and government relevant organizations. So maybe now allow me to invite the panelists. Please return to your seats. And So ladies and gentlemen, this after the wrap up of Mr. Sulian, this marks the end of the Mekong Forum 2022. And on behalf of Mekong Institute, we would like once again to thank all of you for your active participation in today's event. I hope everyone would take home valuable insights from the forum, which we together could use for the advanced social economic growth in the future. Before you leave the hall, please allow me to remind you for few more things. On your table, you can see the QR code. Please kindly bring your mobile phone to kindly scan, and it took you a few minutes to fill up the evaluation form. It is very important and valuable for us to hear from your feedback. And the second point is I want to mention today, each of you is given this name tag, because we are talking about sustainable development. So we request you to return this lanyard of name card. Please kindly either drop the lanyard on the table or at the registration counter. We will collect it back and use it for our next event. Let's be green and recycle. And the last announcement I want to mention again, not sure if the person who left your handbag in the session 2 room, ground floor, if anyone forgot your bag, please kindly check and collect it back from the registration counter. So we sincerely wish each and every one of you have a safe trip back to home, or enjoy your evening and nighttime when you stay in Kangen. We looking forward to cooperate and work with you in the future. Thank you very much. Okay, enjoy your night and evening. Thank you.